Thank you for joining our service dog handler chat. You have to forgive noise in the background. I have an 11-week-old puppy who likes to join in on Zooms. Hey, honey. And so just to get started briefly, we have a couple of quick rules that we do with these service dog handler chats. It's just to help everybody with different disabilities and whatnot. So please stay muted until somebody is asked to speak, because that helps with the flashing for anyone with seizures. If there's a noise in the background, like my puppy barking, like she tends to try to do when she wants attention or wants to go play with my other dog. And so that helps it from flashing to that screen materially, which can trigger seizures.
Penny, I lost my mouse.
Question. The chat is open, so you can pop it in the chat. I'll be monitoring chat since Cindy is running Zoom. And if it's something that's timely that needs to be answered right away, then I will go ahead and interrupt Michael and have him answer it. And then if it's not, and it's something that can wait till the end, we'll field that at the end as well. So just depending on what the question is. So with that, today's chat is presented by Michael and Kim. It's going to be about beginning your service dog journey, which you guys probably already knew before you came today. So while this is mainly geared toward new members, there's going to be some points where we stop and ask questions from people that have been at it a while, like when we get to the state laws. And so then we'll kind of just go around, and anybody who has a current service dog that wants to join in can help answer that question for their state. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael as he starts our presentation. And Cindy, you can go to the next one.
Hello, I just want to say thank you everybody for coming. And I'm glad I have the opportunity to help you with some information, and we'll have some good chats, and hopefully we'll all learn from each other. So let me start by telling you a little bit about me. I have had several service animals. My first dog that I got was back in '99. It was a German Shepherd, and I got him through a program or a school, but normally they're called programs, and in Des Moines, Iowa. And so I just enjoyed the whole training process and stuff, but I did realize that when you work with a program, they like to have everything, like they have certain ways of doing things. Which is fine. I completed the program, but then I realized that some of the things that they wanted me to do, I wasn't okay with. You know, like I had my German Shepherd. They wanted to use different methods as far as taking control of the dog. You know, like prong collars or etc. I don't really believe in that. So. And with my disability, they had trouble adapting the way that I held the leash. This was one of the main reasons why I decided to start training my own dog, because with my left hand, my hands are limited. So I couldn't figure out how to hold the leash in my hand and drive my chair. Well, over trial and error, now I can use a couple carabiners and a leash hooked to about a 2-foot leash hooked to my chair. And through trial and error, I have learned how to adapt it so I don't have to hold the leash, but I have control over the dog when I need it. So that's one of the main reasons why. And then I started training, and I learned that after I was able to get a dog and work with it, you get a much better dog when you can train it yourself. You get a stronger bond and so forth. And that's the main reason why I started training, and here we are now. So I have also trained a husky, which huskies are stubborn, but they're very good dogs. They've said, oh, people said to me, oh, well, I can't believe you got a husky to retrieve. I can't believe you got a husky to do this. Well, yes, they're stubborn, but just like kids, you have to figure out what is the best way that they learn and adapt.
Huskies aren't stubborn. They're just independent.
Right, yeah.
As a husky owner myself, yes, my
yeah.
dog is a husky. So it's not a matter of being stubborn. They just have a very strong opinion. So
Right.
you have to use the right motivation.
Right. That's what I mean when I said that you have to figure out the best way for them to learn and figure out their paycheck and what works for them. So right now I have trained bigger dogs to be able to, you know, pull manual wheelchairs, open doors and so forth. And when I first started training, a lot of people told me, well, how are you going to train a dog for someone with a disability or someone that uses a wheelchair when you use a wheelchair yourself, meaning myself? And back in 99, after I completed the first program with my first dog, I applied at the same school as my trainer at the time. And they sent me a letter point blank and said, well, there's no way we can accept you because we don't understand how you're going to train a dog for people with disabilities when you have one yourself. So that gave me more of a motivation to do it myself and to prove that I could do it. And the main reason, and I also do it because it's a whole process, which we'll get into in a little bit, to get a dog paid for, donated, trained, all of that. So I try to help other people. Right now I work it by word of mouth and try to help other people when they need it, so I can help them maintain the independence that they need, see the benefits of having a service dog without having to go through the whole process and spend all that money, because a lot of us that use service animals are on a limited income. So that's basically how I got started with everything. So, and then that's my introduction about myself. Some of the things that I want to talk about is a couple of definitions. If you want to change the screen, Cindy, you can, and it'll give the definitions that I'm going to talk about. Thank you. We got, there's just a few here that I know of. Service dog is a SD, which means it's just a service dog. The SDIT is a service dog in training. So if you hear that word, those two definitions during the chat, those are the definitions of those letters. And the last one is the ADA. And I'm sure most of us knows what the ADA is, but we'll go ahead and say that. It's Americans with Disabilities Act. So those are the three definitions that we're going to talk about today. And if anybody else has anything, you know, to add, like Penny or anybody about some other important definitions, we can talk about those also. Cindy, if you can change the screen real quick to my next one. This will be service dog etiquette, which is these are very important rules that I have experienced during when I was working with a program, as well as training my own dog and helping others. Is very important to know how to act act when you see a dog in different situations. Okay, like the first one that I have down is you do not want to pet the dog, because if the dog is with they're doing some dogs are on their job 24/7, you know, and a couple of these jobs are like, if the person has an epileptic disorder and they have seizures, or they have anxiety, or panic attacks or something of that nature. And they might just be walking down the road and whatever. But if they get distracted by your voice or something, then the dog could be off task in a second, or that second or two could mean a life or death medical situation for that handler. Then they'll be in a problem. So even and some teams that I know, service dog teams, have their dog's name on their harness. I do not have Belle's name on it, but some people have their dog's name on it. And if you notice it and you be like, hey, Jimmy, and then the dog hears Jimmy, then they're going to look at you, which is going to get them off task. And then again, that's another thing that could happen. So it's very important that you don't, that you ignore the dog, you don't make eye contact with them, and do not distract the dog. If you have questions for the dog, I mean, for the handler about their dog or whatever, you can talk to the handler, and ask them, say, hey, do you have a few minutes to answer some questions about it? But do not pet the dog or touch the dog without asking the handler first, so that the dog can stay on task. It's very important to do that. In all situations, even if you have kids, this is a very important one. It happened to me at Walmart one day. A bunch of people came up to me and they started petting my dog. This is when I had my white husky at the store. Oh, they petted my dog. And I'm like, excuse me, please do not pet the dog. It's working. And I had to explain it. And it took a long time for me to get through to the people that the dog is in a job. They tried to let the kids pet it. I had to gently say, excuse me, the dog is working. Please do not, pet the dog. So you just have to know the best interests of you, the dog, and the situation. And so, like, my dog has a word. Belle has the word. My husky had a word. If you train a dog to have a certain word that the dog can visit, then, or whatever word you pick or situation, then the dog knows, hey, temporarily then I can greet the people. Or if you say, well, go say hi or whatever, they greet the people, they do their thing. And then as soon as that handler gives it a command or whatever, it's right to work. It's right back to work. And that's how you deal with that. Or that's what I do for myself. So anyway,
I think Cindy passed a few slides
yeah,
on
we
it.
passed a
She
few
needs
pages,
to
but we'll get back
up a little bit. You're muted,
know.
too, Cindy. We can't hear what you're
I
saying.
was trying to back them up and my computer won't do it for some reason. So I've assigned you slide control for a minute
All right.
to see if you have better luck.
Because I'm trying to make as best
Nope.
use of our time as we can.
All right. Go ahead and pop out. Oh, wait. Somebody has something. Go ahead and pop out, Cindy. I'll share it real quick.
Okay.
I have it up. So if you just stop share.
Okay, I stopped
You're
sharing.
having technical difficulties. Oh, I thought I had it up. Let me just make sure I have it up. I just had it on a different screen. All right, getting to where he was at. All right.
Okay. Let me know when we're set.
Did we start captions anywhere?
They're supposed to automatically be started if somebody starts them.
Did anybody start them?
Anybody can do it. I did not start them,
There's a etiquette one.
We just did that
Oh,
one.
well,
but
okay.
they should automatically be there. So there you go. But you're finishing up. Are you ready for the next one?
Yes, we're ready.
Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Hey, that's the way it goes. I just appreciate the opportunity to be part of it.
Right.
So we're good with it. And this is important. the things I've experienced over time is the dog for the ADA qualifications of a service dog, right? The main one is they have to be they have to be excuse me, they have to be potty trained because they go into public and they go into different situations. So you don't want your dog to be in public and have an accident or something, which we do know it happens on occasion. But for the most part, especially if they're puppies, you know, getting used to situations, they do have accidents, but for them, 90% of it, the dog has to be potty trained. This is a big one. Second one is it has to be, your dog has to be under handler control at all times. Okay, whether you use a tether or you use a leash or you use whatever you use, the dog, because you never know in public, especially in public, distractions, like I was just talking at Walmart, you got kids, you got people, you got whatever, and something could happen, and then your dog, somebody could run up on your dog or whatever. So you need to, or see another service dog in public, you need to have your dog under control at all times. If you are not able to control your dog by leash because of your disability, then you have to have some other way to control that dog to help you maintain control, so that even if you're not able to hold a traditional leash, then you have to have some type of control with your dog. Whether you have somebody come with you, it can be an attendant or however. Your dog just has to be under control of yourself, or you have to be in control of the dog at all times, all situations. That's one of the main qualifications. And then the dog has to be trained for your specific disability to perform specific tasks that you need, such as pick up dropped items, pull a man in your wheelchair, perform, be able to get you out of a door if you get too panicky, whatever situations. Your dog has to be trained for specific tasks that's going to help you mitigate your disability, which means to help you handle your disability in a daily situation, in different situations. It makes, you know, like, for me, one of the main tasks, like when I had a bigger dog, my dog was flipping on switches, opening doors, refrigerators, all that stuff. But as I get older, the main task that I use my dog for now is to be able to retrieve items off the floor. So I don't have as the big dog right now. But I'm seriously thinking about, you know, in 10 years, 8 years, whenever Belle retires or whatever, I'm seriously thinking about getting a bigger dog because I can see the help in that again. But right now, Belle's awesome and she helps me retrieve items. She does hit some switches if they're low enough. And if she is, you know, that's what she does right now. But her main task at home and in public is to pick up dropped items. So that's the main one that she does for me. So then I'm gonna switch to the next slide. Can we switch to the next one? Okay. Thank you, Cindy. This one is one, I don't know if any of you has experienced this, but I know that if you have a service dog, then you have a medical emergency, you may have to go in an ambulance. And I do know that the dog is able to go with you in an ambulance. So, you know, especially if the dog is for epileptic seizures, panic attacks, etc. And the dog is able to, some ambulances, like I know in Iowa City, Iowa, this happened to someone that I knew, that she didn't have anywhere to put her dog and etc. So the Iowa City Ambulance Department in Iowa made little jump seats in the inside of the ambulance so that the dog can get in the seat and be harnessed in to get to the hospital with the owner. But if the dog is not able to fit back with the owner, the dog can sit up in the cab with the drivers, or if the dog is not able to be in the ambulance because of the size, then they have to provide other transportation to make sure that the dog will get there. So the dog will meet you there at the hospital, so that they don't want to separate, or that they should not separate you from the dog if at all possible. That is.
And that might vary from state to state and ambulance
Right.
company to ambulance company. Some may be
Right.
required. I know in Michigan, they're not required, but in my area, they do. So that's one of the things that can vary from state to state. Hopefully our goal is that they never separate, but we can't make those rules, unfortunately. Go ahead.
Right. And thank you, Penny, for interjecting that. And also you need to know, since we're talking about laws right now, you do need to know whatever state you guys are in. You have to know, like the majority of the information that I'm quoting on, other than personal experiences and stuff, is from ada.gov. That is the ADA website, where there's a little tab on there that says service dogs or service animals. I don't know which it is, but you click on that and there's all different subheadings and stuff. But you go to that site and there's a whole thing. It says service dog state laws, and then it will list on, if you go to your specific state, whether it's Missouri, Iowa, wherever, Michigan, you go and you click on your state, and then those laws are listed there, because there is different laws with some states. Service dogs and training have the same rule or laws, but some states are different with service dog and training versus service dog. So it's important that before you start your service dog journey, that you go to that site and check your state laws to make sure you're up to date on all of that. That's very important. So, because you don't, and then one thing I do is I have some extra, or not extra, but I have some ADA law cards that I carry around. And so if I ever have to present them to businesses, then I can do that. The other thing that, okay, this is the questions that a business can ask you, because you're a service dog handler. And if they don't just leave you, most businesses are cool nowadays, and they don't really hassle you.
Sorry, Michael. I noticed Zoom is having an issue with that, and it is not allowing any backup of the slides at all. So let me just get right to the slide that you need to be. So.
Okay, do you want me to go ahead then? Or?
Yeah, you were on the questions a business owner can ask, and I'm just going to reset the slides for you. But go ahead, continue.
Okay, I'm sorry. The thing is that they can ask you, these are the two, they can ask you two questions, okay? Two questions. They can ask you, is that a service dog? And they can ask you, what is that dog to do, okay? And but that's all. Like, you don't, by ADA standards, certification of any kind is not required, okay? So some people, which I know, when I was in Iowa City, I didn't live there, but I was there for a meeting, and someone had a dog there, and it didn't have any kind of vest or any kind of bandana or anything. So they were getting questioned about the dog, why the dog is in public, whatever. But you don't have to have any kind of markings and stuff on your dog, vest, whatever. I do though, because if I make sure that my dog is well visible and all that, then I have found that it eliminates a lot of problems. But they can just ask you, like I said, is that a service dog? And what does that dog do for you? And if they have more questions, I just hand them an ADA lock card. I say, you can call this number, and that's it. Like one time I went to made a reservation at a hotel. They made a big deal about me bringing my dog in there. I tried to talk to them because I'm well versed in that. They wouldn't listen to me. They said they had a plaque on the wall that says they had to provide paperwork, all that. So I called a local attorney in Cedar Rapids, Iowa before I went there. And all of a sudden I got a phone call from the hotel saying, oh, you're more than welcome to bring your dog, no paperwork is required, and blah, blah, blah. So you have to be well versed in the laws and stuff like that, because if you run into situations like that, you have to know how to fire back at them to protect your right of access for both you and your dog. Because whatever you go through, then the next person that goes behind you most likely will not have to do that. So you always have to be prepared to stick up for yourself and your dogs and your rights to do. Make sure that everything is done right. And that's what these groups are good for, because we're all here to help each other. So if you ever need help, then we're all here to help one another to get through things. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is and then you can switch the side if you want to the slide into the next one. The things I want to talk about is the common reasons owners decide to train their own dogs. Is cost is the first one. Is because a lot of dogs, most dogs are anywhere from, I don't know, I'll just say $3,000 to $10,000 or more $1,000. And you know, most people they don't have that kind of income available, so they just do what they can. And people don't understand, you know, when you go through a program, a lot of people, another reason is people have medical issues, and a lot of programs, they have you go to their camps or whatever, and you have to stay there for so many weeks and stuff. For so many weeks, and you only get to work for so many a few dogs, and so you don't get to make a good bond with them during that time. And a lot of people can't be away from their home environment and their appointments and so forth that long. So that's one reason why they don't like to be away, because they have to leave the home environment. They have to make sure that they have attendance if they go away, some people. So the one of the reasons why the cost is so high is because people don't realize that it's just not the dog you're getting to have to pay the trainers, the vet bills, the food, the recreational stuff. The dogs have to go out in public and learn things. So yes, it's high, but that a lot of people just try and do it themselves with local groups like these groups that we're in right now, because to get the experience, because the cost is too high, and sometimes people don't have the avenues and the groups in their communities to raise money for a dog. And the next one is waiting lists, because sometimes you can be, depending on what group you go with, you can be on a waiting list for 2 to 3 years or so forth. And people don't, because depending on their disability and their time frames and their life and everything, they don't have time to wait 2 to 3 years for a dog. So they try to learn as much as they can through resources and groups like these, obviously. And we just do it ourselves best we can. And I think that training your own dog is a lot better, because you get to make real friendships through these groups, and you have a good lifetime support system in case you have problems with access issues or something happens. The people in these groups, they understand what you're going through, because you know what? We're all going through the same stuff. So even if you're a new person who's beginning your journey like this chat is talking about, or if you're people like myself Cindy, Penny, who have done this for a while, we're all here for each other. So don't think just because you've been in the group maybe, or you just started your journey maybe a month or two ago or whatever, or even if you haven't really made up your mind yet, we all treat each other with respect, and we're all here as one big situation for people, for ourselves.
Next slide.
The next slide is, this is, we're getting to the end here, but the next slide, if we can, which is things to remember. This is, because I just revised this presentation this year, because I also presented it at an advocacy conference in Kansas. So I just revised this presentation a couple months ago. So this is the main, these are kind of big ones. When you get a dog and you decide what breed you're going to get based on the task you're doing, etc., you are responsible for the needs of your dog for the rest of its life. Okay, you are responsible for the food, the house, the shelter, the collars, whatever you need to be able to train that dog successfully. And when you go out in public, the vet care. And if you get like a dog with like a poodle or a husky, like I've had a husky, there's a lot of grooming or brushing or whatever. You're responsible to keep, whether it's a service dog or not, you're responsible for the dog's health care and maintaining a healthy, good-looking dog for the remainder of its lifetime. That's the main thing. Okay, then you're responsible for, this is a big one too. Let's say that your dog does all the stuff, really, like let's say it really has a good sit. It sits really good and it'll sit there. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna work on retrieving. I'm gonna work on laying down. I'm gonna work on all this stuff. You work on all that stuff, but you skip the sit. So you skip the sit for maybe 4 days, 5 days, because you say, oh, well, it was good on sit on Monday. So you don't worry about it. So then when you get to somewhere, whether it's at home, outside, public, wherever, and all of a sudden you need that dog to sit, and it needs to sit there, and it's doing everything else but that. Okay, you don't want that. You want to just keep your refreshing the training, make it better, make it fun, and keep changing it up and adding to it. Because dogs get bored like kids, humans, whatever. But you have to keep, it's just like kids, you have to keep refreshing the training. Just because they're good at it for a while, they're solid, they're bulletproof, then you cannot slack on it. You just have to keep refreshing it, make it more interesting all the time. So, and when you train a dog, it's all about being happy, and it's a big game, because the more you put into your dog, the more you're going to get out of it. That's the way I think about it. So, and it's important to always remember that your dog is a dog, even though it's being trained to help you with your daily tasks that you have trouble doing or whatever. Okay, it's a dog. It needs time off. It needs to play. It needs to socialize with other dogs. It needs to just be a dog and not, be working 24/7. Even animals that have to work 24/7, like a hearing dog or a seizure dog or whatever, they need time off too. So just remember, you have to give them time off so that they don't get burned out as well as yourself. And then you have this is the last one of this one, and then Kim is going to talk. You have to be able to read your dog, pay attention, look at the dog's eyes, their ears, the way they hold their tail, etc. You have to be able to know your dog, and you have to be able to pay attention to its body language. Like you have to know when the dog is scared, stressed, whatever happens. And the longer you're with your dog, you have to be able to pay attention and know it the best you can. So That's just, excuse me for the barking, but you have to know your dog's body language, because that's gonna tell your dog is gonna tell you if it feels uncomfortable or not. And that's all I have for now. And we're gonna turn it over to Kim real quick.
Hi, my name is Kim and I'm Michael's fiance. And we live in the same apartment. What I'm going to talk about is living with a family member or a friend that has a service dog. Go to the next screen there. Okay. Next screen. Determine how you can help with care. For me, with Michael's dexterity problems, I do sometimes help him with the leashing when he needs it. You also need to respect the handler's boundaries and just kind of follow along what they want you to do. And you have alternate handler options, such as if you have an aide that helps with your dog on occasion. We do have an attendant and she sometimes helps Michael with leashes and things as well. It's just really important that you know the boundaries of doing that. And then with that, I'm going to turn it over to Penny.
I just wanted to add one quick thing there before I go into my portion. The reason that it's so important that we're respecting boundaries is each handler is going to have different rules. So I know I've talked to some handlers before that are very strict and like they don't want family members interacting with the dog because it thinks it makes their dog bond better to them when family members aren't doing that much interaction. And for me and my disabilities, I need my family members to be also bonded with my dog. I need them to be able to walk the dog when I'm unable to. I want my dog to be able to stay with them if I'm in the hospital and I don't want my dog in the hospital for that length of time. Or, you know, if I'm having surgery, I need my dog comfortable with my family members. So I have different rules as far as what my family members can do with my dog. And some of that depends on what environment we're in. And so like my rule, you know, at home, the dog is welcome to socialize with anybody in our home because it's our home.
Exactly.
Free reign, you know? Unless in the middle of a task, my dog is a medical alert dog, so he's always smelling no matter what's going on, and he'll stop what he's doing if he needs to alert to that smell. And then he does other tasks, but the other ones I can call him over if he's distracted. So the scent doesn't get distracted because that's been so heavily reinforced. But so when we're out in public, I do ask my family members to try to ignore him and pretend like he's not there. If I'm having a really good day, I might work with my now 8-year-old. She just had a birthday granddaughter because she's working on some dog training skills herself. And so I might let her be alternate handler with me right there, which actually gives me a little bit of time to practice some off-leash skills, which I do with my dog often, because I don't believe in off-leash unless your disability truly requires it.
That's exactly.
So every handler has to decide their boundaries. So for family members living with that service dog, handler and service dog, they need to, you know, maybe they're a part of helping figure out what those boundaries are, but then they need to respect that it is the handler's choice. The dog has a mission in that family. It's not just a family dog. And that also comes down to advocating for your dog. If a family member is doing something you don't want them to be doing, you need to advocate for your dog and remove you and your dog from that situation if need be. But so that's part of living with a service dog and a service dog handler, is helping them where you can, but also respecting their boundaries so you're not overstepping and trying to do too much. And sometimes our family members are our alternate handlers. And so I keep hitting the wrong button on the slideshow. So next up is me. This is my service dog, Azul. Now his tuck is not very good in this picture, and I will give you that. The reason it's not is because we are the only ones in this restaurant, besides people working behind the kitchen. And the kitchen was loving him. And from where he was at, he could see the people in the kitchen, and they kept on coming out and going, oh, what a beautiful dog, which he knows is that cue to focus. I've developed that when he hears beautiful, handsome, or look at those eyes, because he has really light blue eyes, all of that means focus on me more. So I chose to allow him to be a little bit further out of position in that situation, which is totally acceptable. When it comes to tucking, there isn't a finite rule we have to follow. Tucking isn't even part of the ADA. It's more of a service dog handler etiquette kind of thing. We want our dog to be out of the way. So if no one else is in the restaurant, he's out of the way. And that's the goal. So sorry about going into that spiel. That's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk a little bit about being a service dog handler as far as what that means to you and your dog. So I work on a teamwork-based approach in everything. So if I want my dog to take care of me 24/7 as a medical alert dog, I also need to know that, or he also needs to know that I'm going to take care of him. So part of that is a daily sniffy walk, or I like to call him a sniffabout, where we're on a longer leash and he can just enjoy nature, and we move at his speed as long as his speed is not faster than I can move. And we go where he wants to go. We have some countryside around us. We're on 10 acres ourselves, but other areas nearby where it's just wide open and he can choose, so he can go on his mole hunts and things like that, that takes care of his needs. So every dog is going to be a little bit different, and it's important to figure out what your dog needs in every moment of the day so that you can help them.
Yeah.
So if you're early in on public access training and they're feeling nervous in an environment, and that means you need to leave, you need to know that and be prepared to do that. Or if your dog is just too overstimulated and you need to find a quiet area to redirect them, that's what becomes that balancing act of, it doesn't become your needs are more important than your dog's needs. And you can look at needs and wants, because I live in a really cold temperature in northern Michigan, so it's freezing out some days. Yesterday, I think it was 12. And so I may not want to go out on that sniffabout, but it's not hurting my disability to do so. I might get extra cold and have to come back and have some help warming up, but I have all of the warm weather gear to do it, so it doesn't hurt me. So in that situation, I want to make sure he gets his needs met, because it's not impacting my needs. Now, if he had a need that went against my physical abilities, that's where I would look at that family member for support, or a friend, or like he does like to run. And so I have a good friend with another husky service dog that lives not too far away. And so bringing those two dogs together so that they can run and play and have their social time. My dog, even though he's highly social, tends to bug other dogs. Like he has the wrong signals because he is so confident, and he's got that husky swooshy tail. And so the tail up can be threatening to some dogs, and his eagerness and excitement can be threatening. So he doesn't play with other dogs, but he plays with his husky friend on a regular basis. And that's the way we balance his needs and my needs. I had surgery not too long ago, and when I had that going on, we arranged play dates ahead of time with this husky friend so that he could come over and help tire my dog out in that week to week and a half that I was unable to do the daily sniffabouts. So becoming a team is more important than anything else you can train your dog. Developing that bond, creating that what works for you. Like I said, in that tuck, in that particular position, that was the tuck that worked for us based on the environment that we were in. Azul can tuck in a really tight place if he needs to, but if he doesn't need to, I'm not going to require it, because he gets hot really quickly and likes to stretch out. Right now he's sleeping in my bedroom with the window open while I'm in my office with a heater. So it's kind of balancing that act of letting him be where he needs to be and letting me be where I need to be in order for us both to be able to do what we need to do in a day. And so the very last point was knowing when to leave your dog at home, because that's something I hear over and over again with service dog handlers, because All right, for example, I'm going to share a friend's story because I know they don't mind. So they were going to they were invited to a family gathering they really, really wanted to go to. And as we know, personal homes are not covered under ADA laws. It's not a public place. And this person was going to have another visiting dog in that area or in that house that was a dog reactive dog. And so the service dog handler had to make a choice as to whether she was comfortable leaving her dog at home or whether she was going to skip the family event and not go, because it would not have been safe for her to take her dog into that environment in that moment. And she could have argued, hey, mine's a service dog and yours is not. I need mine, you don't. But she also lived local to where the event was taking place, like 5 minutes from her home. And the other person was traveling a long distance to be there for 3 days. And so she really didn't have the option to leave her dog at home like the service dog handler did. So it came down to leave the dog home where he's safe, or you just decide not to go, so you stay with your dog. So there are different things that you have to determine that. A big one for me being that I do have that husky who loves winter and all this cold weather. He doesn't do so well in the heat. He's also a black husky. So if I'm attending an outdoor summer event and temps are 90 degrees, I have to consider having a human with me that can help me to the best of their ability. Not that they can do the medical alerts like my dog can, but I'm not going to ask my dog to be in that environment. He's lucky with the fact that I don't do well in very hot environments either. So if it's going to be a 90-degree day, neither one of us are leaving air conditioning. We might go from the air-conditioned car and go from the air-conditioned car to the air-conditioned grocery store, but we're not going to be out long-term in that kind of environment because it would not be safe for him and it would not be safe for me. So if you're thinking about getting a dog, you need to think about this balancing act and how you're going to do it and where you want to draw your lines before you bring the dog into it. Because it's much easier with a puppy starting with that mindset of these are the lines. Now, of course, we always need to be flexible in what we're doing, but we also want to at least have an idea of what those lines are so that we can start from puppyhood and encourage that with the puppy. And this is what we're going to do. And this is when you're going to stay home, and also condition your puppy to be able to stay home without having a separation issue. And I see Cindy has her hand up. So go ahead, Cindy.
I don't know if you were planning on addressing this or not, but if you're choosing to, if you're getting a new service dog, breed considerations need to come into play, like coat type and heat tolerance. I had a Great Pyrenees service dog when I lived in Oregon, and I still have her, but she would only be able to work 6 months out of the year in California because it's just too hot, and it gets too hot to even take Nick out at times. So my standard poodle. So it's something to consider in addition to, social factors of, is the environment okay for my dog, but did I choose the right dog for the environment in which I live?
Yeah, I was not planning on going over how to pick a dog.
Okay.
You have to end this Zoom really quickly here, though, so I'm going to try to get through this so that we can do any questions if there are any. So these are just the things that you want to consider when you're picking your boundaries. We already kind of discussed the friends and family that we live with you. You might have different rules with the people that your dog sees all the time in your household versus visitors. I don't, but some people do. General public, we know, as Michael said, excited kids come up to you all the time. People will ask you questions about your disability. You'll get people angry that the dog is there. And so you kind of have to learn your responses and memorize kind of your responses to that so that you can get through it more quickly. And that is something that we've done other chats on, and we can do additional chats on. I just wanted to say it out there as it's something to think about when you're setting your boundaries. And you also want to look at who are the people that you work with regularly, a doctor that you visit regularly, a dentist, anything like that, any place, like say I frequent the library regularly, so I have to consider that when I'm thinking about my dog and the boundaries I'm gonna have and the rules that I'm going to use. Are they consistent with what they need to be for that environment at that time? So you do need to look at that.